All right, guys, we got him. The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Hut Homes Half Off, Mr. Filthy Riches. If you do not know who this individual is and you're a real estate investor, I don't know where you've been. He's been traveling the country, this great country of ours, helping people replicate, duplicate, and dominate just like he has for years. Let me introduce you to my guest, Mr. Larry Goins. Larry, how you doing?
What's up? How are you?
Man, I'm grateful to get you on here. I'm excited. As we were talking about, you've done a lot in this business, and I think a lot of people are going to like what we're talking about today. We're going to go over your Filthy Riches program, which is a strategy that I think is going to help a lot of investors because everywhere I go, just like you do, you travel around. What do people say? There's too much competition. There's not enough deals, and they're complaining about their hot seller market. But what's their excuse when there's different markets around the country? Nothing's holding them back. So let's kind of let you introduce yourself a little bit here, and then we'll kind of get into the strategy and show people why it's such a great option for them if they're in a market that they're not feeling right now.
Awesome. Well, if you haven't heard of me before, where have you been?
I don't know. I don't know where they've been.
Right? Yeah, I've written a few books. They're in bookstores everywhere. My first book was called Getting Started in Real Estate Day Trading, How to Buy and Sell a House the Same Day Using the Internet. And we've actually done deals in 12 different states, right from Lake Wiley, South Carolina. And we do a lot of real estate day trading. I also do a model I call Filthy Riches. It's how to make more money on a rundown $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 house than most investors make on a $100,000 house, guaranteed. And then a lot of the houses I buy are HUD homes. I wrote the book on it called HUD Homes Half Off. We're still buying HUD houses at 50, 40, even 30% of list price. We just got an offer accepted day before yesterday. The house is listed for $35,000, and we picked it up for, I believe it was $13,500, or it might have been $15,300, something like that. So that's less than 50% of list price, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're going to get Larry back on here for specifically talking about HUD homes because it's too much to cover on today's episode. But we're going to go over the Filthy Riches strategy, which is basically buying low price point properties, and we're going to talk about the exit strategy that he uses in them. So let's kind of talk about this a little bit here. So what you just said, buying houses under 15 grand to some people, especially California people, that seems crazy, right? They're like, these guys are lying to me. That doesn't exist. But there's a lot of low price point markets. Yeah, I mean, they're just not living where they're at, right? So let's kind of talk about where you're doing this and what types of areas of the country that people can actually find these types of deals.
Well, you know what? It's much easier. And everybody say, well, where can I find a house for $5,000, $10,000, $15,000? Well, first of all, you're not going to find the house, okay? If you're buying a house for $5,000 that's listed for $5,000, you don't want it anyway. It's not a fixer-upper, it's a blower-upper, okay? If it's listed for $5,000, what you want to do is find a house that's listed for $20,000, $25,000, $30,000, and you're going to make offers of $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, right? So you're going to pick up a $30,000 house for $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, and then you're going to be able to turn around and sell that house for about 3 to 6 times what you paid for it with owner financing, with a small, reasonable down payment, and then you got cash flow coming in for the next 10 to 20 years every single month. I love this model. I mean, think about this. If I pick up a house for $5,000, okay, and I turn around and sell that house for $30,000 with owner financing, and let's say I only get $2,000 down, okay? I get $2,000 down. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to have $3,000 in that house, right, Connor?
That's right.
Now I'm leaving closing cost out of this intentionally, okay? I'm leaving closing cost out intentionally, all right? But closing cost is just going to add a little bit to it. But think about this. If I'm collecting $300 a month on this house, right? 300 times 12, that's $3,600, right? For the whole year. That's over 100% return on my money, right, guys?
I mean, it's a great strategy. This is why I wanted to get you on here. I've seen you give this speech a couple of times, and every time I'm like, man, I got to do this, but I'm just so busy. But let's look at, the marketing for these deals, right? So a lot of people are doing heavy marketing in their area, direct mail, but you're not really doing these types of strategies. You're finding them in public sources, right? On the HUD Home Store, auction sites, or MLS. Is that correct? Or what's the...
That's absolutely true. Now, let me just share this. There's 2 ways to run your business and to pick a market, okay? You can either go deep or you could go wide. All right. You could go deep or you could go wide. Now, what I mean by this, and you've probably heard this before, Connor, if you go deep, let's say I'm in Lake Wiley, South Carolina, which is right across the state line from Charlotte, North Carolina. So I'm in the Charlotte MSA. The Charlotte is right here. The MSA, including the smaller towns around. If I was going to just market in the Charlotte and surrounding areas, I would have to do HUD, MLS, auctions, bandit signs, bird dogs, co-wholesaling, direct mail, pay-per-click advertising, Facebook ads, bandit signs, everything. I would have to do it all, right?
Yep.
What I choose to do is I choose to go wide, all right? My market is North Carolina and South Carolina, and I've moved into Georgia recently, okay? And listen, even if I only get 3-4 deals a month in each state, you see what I'm saying? If I get 3 or 4 or 5 deals in North Carolina, 3 or 4 or 5 deals in South Carolina, 3 or 4 or 5 deals in Georgia, that's 9 to 15 deals a month right there. But I did it by going wide, and I don't have to do direct mail, pay-per-click, bandit signs, bird dogs, Facebook ads, all that other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it adds up. So like the biggest issue, you'll probably see this being in the education business with your new investors that come to you, is they can't get over this limitation, this belief system that they have to be where they can touch the property, right? So like, unless you want your tenants to be your neighbors, it doesn't really matter, right? So people need to, especially for wholesalers that come across this or doing this filthy riches strategy, you need to branch out, right? Because there's other markets. You need to be in these low price point markets. We're not talking about strategy you can do in a little higher price point market, probably not even here in Dallas. And you're doing these with single family or single and double wide mobile homes, right? And you love
I do it with, yeah, absolutely. I do it with double wide mobile homes. I love double wide mobile homes. I mean, think about this. I could go and pay $15,000, $20,000 for an old house that was built in the early 1900s, 1920, 1930, 1940, whatever. It's probably 900 or 1,000 square feet. It's got 3 bedrooms and 1 bath, and the houses are this close together, right? Or I could find a nice 2000, 2002 double wide mobile home that's 1,800 square feet, 3 or 4 bedroom, 2 or 3 bath. It has a vaulted ceiling, plant shelves, garden tub. It's got a deck on the front, a deck on the back. It's got an acre of land, and it's in a small town where this is most important, where people were born and raised. They have ties to the community, and they want to live and raise a family. That is the kind of customer I'm looking for.
Absolutely. I love mobile homes. We do a lot of these. I think people are scared when they see the small population in these small towns, and they're thinking, what if I can't sell it? What if I can't rent it? But there's people going to buy your properties everywhere at the right price. And really, at the prices you're selling these at, pretty much anybody with any type of job can afford it, right? So
that's so true. That's so, like my sales guy, he's already sold 6 this month. Okay. But think about this. How many buyers do you need per house?
That's right.
You only need one. That's what he's looking for the whole time. The one. You only need one buyer, and that's it per house. I've bought and sold houses in towns that the population was 900.
I mean, what you said there, I think we need to recap on. People don't understand how important what you brought up is that these small towns, they're born there. They're probably not leaving there. Their family's there. And so usually once you get them in there, they're kind of in there for the long haul. And I mean, so what's the worst thing that happens, right? We'll talk about this in a second. If they don't make the payments, you take the property back and you make more money, right? So
if you don't pay, you can't stay.
Okay, so let's walk through your entire process here. So you're marketing for these houses. Let's say you're getting them on MLS or HUD Home, public sources, because obviously to build an operation, to do heavy marketing, like all the different strategies we're talking about, is going to be too difficult. So you're going to markets where there's heavy inventory and you're working to get these houses down. So we go buy one of these houses. What's next? We're not rehabbing these houses, right? We're basically leaving them as is.
Listen, I hate rehabs. I hate dealing with contractors. And I am a licensed general contractor in North and South Carolina since the 80s. But I hate doing rehabs, okay? I hate it. I want my life to be simple. So here's what we do. This is so cool right here. We get the house under contract. Let's say we get it under contract for, I don't know, $10,000 or $15,000. Then immediately we start marketing that house. on our website, on Craigslist. We put out about 25 signs all over the neighborhood, not in the front yard because I don't own it yet, but we put out signs all over the neighborhood that say owner financing, why rent when you can own, reasonable down payment, no bank qualifying. And then we put those signs out and the phone starts ringing off the hook. And then we qualify that buyer. You know, how much do you have to put down? How do you feel like your credit is? What kind of payments can you handle? And then once we feel like we've got a qualified buyer, we say, look, here's what I want you to do. We've got a house coming up. I want you to ride by and look at the outside. Make sure you like the neighborhood. Make sure you like the house from the outside. And if you really like it and you want to apply to see if you can become an owner, then we'll get you inside the house, right? And our goal is to have a buyer. If we get it under contract here and we're supposed to close here, our goal is to have a buyer by the time we're ready to close on it. That's our goal. It doesn't always work out that way. It's the real world, but that's our goal.
So you're funding it with their down payment, kind of in a double close type of situation, so you're bringing less money to the table, is what you're doing?
Yes, so to speak, we are. When that works out like that, we could use their down payment to help pay for our purchase price of buying the property. It's not going to make that much difference, but I mean, think about it. If I'm buying it for 10 grand and I sold it for 39.9 and they're going to put, let's say, $3,000 down, yeah, that lowered my amount by $3,000, but I could even use private money for that if I wanted to. Heck, you could put that on a credit card.
So I think let's put their minds at ease here a little bit, because it's scary for a new investor to think about buying a property in a different state, even though it's not a lot of money. How easy is it to find these buyers? Because I'm sure to them it's going to be like, oh my gosh, this seems like an incredible task. How am I going to get the sign crews there? How am I going to find these buyers? But it's a lot easier than people would probably think to find an owner finance buyer, because in this price point, the banks aren't financing these houses. You're the only game in town, right?
That's so true. That's so true. Now, the last thing in the world I want to tell people is it's easy. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. Heck, if life were easy, we would all be skinny, happy, and rich, right? But life is not easy. Neither is real estate. But you can have it simple. And that's what I've tried to do, is simplify things. But I will tell you this. You asked me about the marketing. How hard is it to find these buyers? Let me tell you something. Even when we're wholesaling houses, when we're doing real estate day trading, and we put out the foreclosure signs instead of the seller financing signs, we have people that call up. I saw your foreclosure sign. Will you finance it for me? I've got $3,000 to put down. I've got $5,000 to put down. So that is your biggest buyer pool of all, is the owner financing buyers, because they have $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 to put down, sometimes more. Plus, in the small towns, Connor, you're going to love this. In the small towns, you've got parents, grandparents, aunts, uncle that are going to help them with the down payment. And even if they start getting behind, you got the parents and grandparents that live right down the street, and they're going to help make their payment because they don't want to lose their grandkids living close to them.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. So we're buying these cheap properties in low price point markets. We're not rehabbing them. We're selling them on owner finance. What's your mindset on the exit strategy? Because you can do a lot of different things with them. People are going to say, why don't you rent them? Well, clearly, tenants are not fun to deal with. Plus, it's a lot more time and headache to bring property management in different states. But what you're doing is you're owner financing. But there's different options with the owner finance on the back end. So you can keep that note forever, or you can sell that note. So let's talk about both these exit strategies and the benefits of each, because you need some transactional money coming in to run your business, but the cash flow is what's going to set you free. So let's touch on the cash flow side of it, and then we'll talk about what you do when you're selling these notes so you can pull money back out to do it again.
Awesome. Before we do that, I want to clarify one thing. I pick houses that are either livable or close to livable. I don't want something that the ceiling's falling in, the floor's caving in, it needs a new roof, or there's a tarp on the roof, or the cabinets are gone in the kitchen. It's got to be close to livable, okay? Paint, carpet, countertops, that's okay, right? Maybe the bathroom needs to be updated because it screams the 80s, okay? That's okay, as long as it's livable. Does a house have to have carpet to be livable? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Does it have to have fresh paint? No. So I pick houses Before I ever make the first offer, it's got to be livable or close to livable. Now, um, the next thing is I'm not going to do any repairs, as I just mentioned. Okay, so like I said, it's got to be livable or it's got to be close to livable. Now, how do I determine what kind of paperwork I'm going to use? If the house is what I call fit and safe, meaning as a landlord, I have a responsibility to provide fit and safe housing, right? So if the house is fit and safe, meaning I could enter into a landlord tenant relationship, I'm going to do a lease option. Now, I can't do that in Texas where you are, right?
Nope.
Because you guys can't do a lease option for more than 6 months. Now, in Texas, though, you could do a straight rental agreement for 6 months, then do a lease option for 6 months, and then convert them over to a mortgage or deed of trust if they stick, okay? If they stick. Because I'll tell you, if they're going to default, it's going to be within the first 12 to 24 months, the first 1 to 2 years. If they default, it's going to be typically between the first year, okay, if they default. So if the house is not fit and safe where I could enter into a landlord-tenant relationship, then I'm going to do what's called a land contract. Now, once again, in Texas, you guys can't do a land contract. You have to do a mortgage or deed of trust. I think Texas is a, deed of trust state?
Yes, we're deed of trust. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have to do a regular deed of trust in Texas. Okay. You guys have, that's all the Dodd-Frank, SAFE Act, all that stuff, except you guys got it on hot sauce, right?
Yeah, we got a lot of rules here.
I know, right? Right. But so anyway, if the house is not fit and safe, I'm going to do a land contract if I can. If it's in Texas, I'm going to do a deed of trust. Okay. And now what can I do? How can I cash out and get paid on this deal? All right. Number one, let's say I bought a house for 15 grand and then I turned around and sold it for 49.9 and I got 5 down. All right. So now I have a 44.9 note bringing in about $600 a month. Well, I've borrowed private money. I've borrowed the $15,000 private money. With the $600 a month coming in, I could have that $15,000 paid off in about 7 years, right? With private money. And even the $5,000 that I get down, that's going to be my profit right now. That's going to be what I put in my pocket right now to help pay the bills, pay overhead, and to live on. But I also have a little bit of a cash flow, right? If my payment is $300 and I'm collecting $600, I got $300 a month cash flow. Plus, we make sure that we have the borrower escrow for taxes and insurance because they're paying that unless it's a lease option, right? They're paying the taxes and insurance. Okay. So that's one way I could cash out. I could borrow the money and keep the note. And then I collect the down payment and that's what I keep. The second way I could cash out is I could sell that note. Now I have a 44.9 note, a $45,000 note. I could sell that note at a discount. Let's say I finance this deal for 15 years at 9% interest. I could cash out this deal probably around $37,000, $38,000 and put that money in my pocket. And if I had 15 in it, and let's say I sold it for 35, if I had 15 in it, that's 20, right? 15 in it, that's 20. Plus the 5 I got down, I made $25,000 cash right now, right?
It's a great strategy. So let's kind of touch on why you would do a land contract versus just doing a simple owner financing type of strategy. Let's kind of touch on the difference because I don't think people understand where one, you're getting ownership right away. The other is at the end of the, terms of the contract.
Sure.
Because there's certain reasons you would do this, but here in Texas, we can't do land contracts, but most of the country can. Why would you do a land contract over just, simply owner financing it to them and transferring title at closing?
Sure. A land contract is basically, and that's also called a contract for deed or land contract. It's basically just a contract like you would make an offer on a property, except it's a very long contract that says you're going to make payments of here's the purchase price, here's the down payment, I'm financing it, here's the interest rate, here's what you can do, here's what you can't do. You're going to be responsible for taxes, insurance, repairs, and maintenance. And if you make your payments on time for throughout the whole contract period, 10, 15 years, whatever it is, Once that contract is over, then I'll deed the house to you. Okay. Until then, I keep the deed. Or if I sell the note to an investor, I'm going to deed the property to that investor. And then once the borrower makes the payments to the investor, then the investor will deed it to them. Okay. The reason that we do a land contract is, depending on the state, it can be easier to get the property back. For example, in North Carolina requires a land contract, also a lease option, to be recorded. So if I do a lease option or a land contract, it's got to be recorded. All right. So how do I get that cloud off the title if they stop paying and move out? Well, instead of doing a deed in lieu of foreclosure, I get them to sign an agreement that basically says, we are canceling the contract for deed, and it goes back as if it never even happened. And then I give that to my attorney, and they record that to release that lien of the contract for deed. Okay. If it was a mortgage or deed of trust, I would just get them to sign a deed in lieu. Okay. Now, the problem with the deed in lieu is, let's say I sold it to them on a mortgage or deed of trust, and they went out and bought a boat, and they didn't pay for the boat, and the boat got repoed, and then they sold the boat at a loss. The dealership did, and then they sold the boat at a loss, and then they got what's called a deficiency judgment against them. Well, if they had a mortgage or deed of trust, that deficiency judgment would attach to that property, and they could not simply give me a deed in lieu, because now that property that they've deeded back to me has that judgment attached to it, right? So I would have to foreclose to wipe out that judgment, that deficiency judgment on the boat that they bought and didn't pay for. With a land contract, the deed is still in my name. And in fact, I sold a house a few months ago to a guy. I bought this house for $17,000, and the comps were $70,000 to $80,000. It was a nice double wide mobile home on 1.5 acres of land. It needed paint and carpet, and that's it. And I stole this house. Okay. $17,000. This guy that wanted it, he said, I'm a handy guy. I've got my own construction business, and I can do all the work, and I've got $5,000 to put down. But the problem was, he had $130,000 IRS judgment against him. $130,000. Now, if I was going to deed that property to him and take back a mortgage or do a deed of trust, that judgment would attach to that house the day I sold it to him. But because I sold it to him on a land contract, right, the deed stays in my name. That $130,000 judgment is irrelevant until he pays me in full, and then I deed the house to him. Then it's going to attach. So it doesn't affect me at all. Okay. Right. That's some of the benefits of using a land contract versus a mortgage or deed of trust.
Well, that's about as good as it gets, guys. As good as it gets, guys. Go back and listen to that past 5 minutes multiple times. That's very valuable information he just shared with you. Now, Larry, have you had any issues? Let's compare the two again. When it comes to selling the note, have you had trouble? I know a lot of people say they have a harder time selling the note on a land contract versus, just simple, owner financing note. Like, have y'all seen this within your own business, or are you able to get the same discount or the same price for it?
Well, actually, the biggest problem with selling on a land contract and then trying to sell the note is you have to explain it, right? That's why what I did was I created a video, a PowerPoint presentation and a video. It's about 30 minutes long that I explain exactly what's the difference between a lease option, a land contract, and a mortgage or deed of trust. And I explain the benefits of a land contract. I also explain about double wides and why I like them and compare them to other properties. And anytime I have somebody interested in buying notes, I send them to that website to take a look at it and watch that video, and then they can opt in to get on my note buyers list, right? So like I sent out an email just last week for 2 notes I have that I'm selling, and I had both of them sold that day with multiple backups, and both of them were land contract deals, and one of them was even a slow pay. And I said that right up front. They're a slow pay. They stay 1 to 3 months behind, but I'm selling it at an 18.5% yield.
How would somebody that's listening to this right now get on that note buyers list? Because it's becoming more trendy, I guess you could say, that people are wanting to move. I've seen this over the past few years to being, truly passive, even though if you take the
Passive.
property back, you're still going to have some work. But people want to buy notes now. It's getting to be more mainstream than I feel it used to be. How do they get on your list
Absolutely.
for buying notes?
Well, that website that I just mentioned is at privateinvestorsonly.com. Privateinvestorsonly.com. And there's that little video of a webinar that I did, not a webinar, but just a little video with a PowerPoint. And then they could opt in right below that. And it'll teach them a little bit about the business too.
Okay, great, guys. Head on over there when you're done with this. So let's talk about the structuring of these loans. Are you using an RMLO on the front side? Are you having loan servicing companies? Are you doing this internally? How would somebody package this to make it, to give them the greatest opportunity to sell the note at the highest price?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, if you do more than 3 of these in a 12-month period of time, not calendar year, but a 12-month period of time, if you do more than 3, you have to comply with Dodd-Frank, okay? Dodd-Frank is what I call the Homeownership Prevention Act, okay? but you have to comply, which means basically you have to get an RMLO, which stands for Residential Mortgage Loan Officer, to take the credit application and approve your buyer, okay? So you have to get an RMLO to do that. On all of my deals, I always get an RMLO to approve the borrower and do all the paperwork and make sure they are compliant with Dodd-Frank. So when you go to sell the note, especially if you go to sell it to an institution, they're going to want to make sure that this loan is totally in compliance and they're not going to have any compliance issues if they're audited by any government regulatory authority.
Absolutely. I agree with that. So are you, everybody's different, but in your business, are you having the tenant buyer pay for the RMLO fees, or are you paying for it yourself? Are you splitting it with them? How do you kind of do that?
I always tell them, I always tell them, listen, I would love to just approve you today because I get a good feeling about you. I think you're going to make the payments on time. I think you'll do what you say you're going to do. But the government says that I have to let a licensed mortgage company approve you, and you have to go through them. I'm going to give you their name and number, and you're going to have to go through them to get approved to buy my house. And unfortunately, they're going to charge a fee that you're going to have to be responsible for because it has nothing to do with me. I'm sorry, but you can take it up with the government because it's not my fault.
That's exactly what we tell them as well. So are you buying these, are you structuring them in a land trust, or are you just doing them, you just taking title to them in your LLC? How are you taking title to these properties?
Well, we do it a couple of different ways. Right now, most of the ones I would do in like a self-directed retirement account or something like that. It used to be I was doing a lot of them outside, but I was doing so many of them, I was considered a dealer, and I would have to pay taxes even if I bought it for 10 and I sold it for 40 with owner financing. There's a $30,000 gain there. Even though I didn't collect the 30,000, if I kept the note, I had to pay taxes on the 30,000 because I'm a dealer. So I stopped doing that.
Okay, you brought up IRAs. Let's talk about funding these deals, because that's what everybody always wants to know. How do I fund these deals? How do I fund them? And then there's also a lot of people listening to this right now that have a small IRA balance. So this strategy is great for people who have a little account inside their IRA because we're only using a small amount of money. So are you funding these a lot with people's IRA accounts, or how are you funding them? I mean, obviously, we brought up, guys, you can do this strategy on a credit card, but be smart if you're going to do that. Kind of make sure you know what your balance is on there and don't go out of control. But let's go through the funding process and kind of, for our listeners who are just now figuring this out, what's the best way to kind of fund these filthy richest properties?
Right, especially like in a self-directed retirement account. If you've got a small account, maybe it could be a $500 IRA or even an HSA, health savings account, or an ESA, education savings account, then what you can do is you can do one of two things. If you're in a 401k, which a lot of people that listen to you, I'm sure they understand what a solo 401k is. With the solo 401k, you can use debt, non-recourse debt, if it's structured correctly, and you will not have to pay UDFI. That's unrelated debt finance income, right? If it's in an IRA or an HSA or ESA, and let's say I bought a house for for 15,000, but I borrowed 15,000, okay? And then I sold it, I'm going to have to pay tax on the borrowed portion, whatever that percentage is. Let's say I bought it for 15 and I sold it for 30. That's 50% of the profit I'm going to have to pay taxes on, okay?
Yep.
So the way to structure it then, if it's outside of a 401k where UDFI does apply, it doesn't apply in a 401k. But if you're doing it in an HSA, ESA, or IRA, then what you want to do is partner with someone, okay? In other words, let's say I went out and I found a house for 30 grand. We're going to turn around and sell or finance it for 69.9. I'm going to get you to put up the 30 grand, okay? And we're going to partner on the deal. My IRA will own 50%, and either your IRA or your LLC will own the other 50%. As the money comes in each month, you and I are going to split the income. When it comes in fact, we're going to tell, because it's in an IRA, I don't want to collect all the money. You don't want to collect all the money. We're going to have them pay, let's say the rent is $700. We're going to tell them to pay $350 to you, $350 to me, right? And then it's all going to be split up. We'll have a third-party servicer service it, right? They could send all the money to the third-party servicer, and the third-party servicer could then divide it out. But if we were servicing it, they would send half and half. But what you do is you have a third-party servicer service it, and then that way they can split it up, okay?
Absolutely.
But then by partnering, the IRA is not subject to UDFI. And if and when they pay you off, maybe they refinance, maybe they sell the property. If it's a lease option, maybe they exercise their option and close. Then you and I split all that equity between what we paid for it that you put up and what we sold it for. We'll split that.
Yep. Some really good information. So the common theme that you guys keep hearing Larry bring up is taxes, saving money on taxes. Larry, when are you going to put together your how to save taxes as a real estate investor home study course? I'll be your first customer when you do that.
As soon as I get through my audit.
Okay, so this is very important to understand this strategy, guys, what we're going over here. Let's kind of look at, the overall view again here. So we're going to these small markets. We're buying these small price point properties. We're owner financing them, keeping the note or selling the note. The reason why you're selling the note is to keep transactional money coming so you can keep doing this, right? So a lot of people have issues with funding. Now, I haven't run this by Larry, but I'm running it by him right now. So if you're a part of your Filthy Riches program, from what I understand, if they find these deals, you're going to fund them, right? If they're at the right price point, these low properties, from what I understand.
That's true. I will fund them for a very short period of time. What you want to do is get it under contract, submit it for funding, do all your due diligence, submit it for funding, market the property, and then your goal is to, whenever you close on it, right, to buy it, you're going to have a buyer lined up and then have your note buyer lined up. What I do is I'll fund that short-term interim between the time you close on it and your note buyer is going to take you out of the deal.
Okay.
That's the whole purpose of my funding, is just to fund that short period of time between the time you close. I'll fund them money to buy the house, and then you got the buyer lined up, and then you got the note buyer lined up, and then once you get that note buyer to pay off the note, or you assign that note to them, then you pay me off.
Yep. So guys, Larry's given us incredible information today, but there's no way we could possibly cover a strategy like this in an hour-long podcast. So let's go and talk about, you put a program together, your Filthy Riches program. A lot of you, he comes through a lot of cities. Maybe you can tell people here in a second where they can get your schedule for next year in 2018, where you're actually going to go. But he travels around the country teaching this. He's about the only person I know teaching this strategy. He may be the only person on planet Earth teaching this. So let's go over the Filthy Riches program and kind of, we'll put a link below this as well, but let's kind of talk about that a little bit, because I think it is a great strategy that most people haven't really thought of doing because they're so focused on sitting in their own market.
Well, Connor, first of all, I didn't invent this, okay? I just like to think I perfected it because there's been guys out there for years that have been buying houses in bulk, okay? They'll buy 10, 20, 30, 50 houses in bulk, and then they take signing crews around and put up sheets of plywood on the front of the house that says $1,500 down, $500 a month, And but the problem is when you're buying bulk, they're the bottom of the barrel, the dog with fleas, the houses that the realtors couldn't sell on the MLS. They might have started out at 30,000, they dropped it to 24.9 to 19.9 to 14.9 to 9,900, and then they pulled it off and they put it in a pool and bulked it. Those are the bottom of the barrel. See, and they've been doing that for years. I just figured out a way that the average guy out there on the street can get a decent deal in a decent area and get a really, really good return on their money. And they don't have to deal with the bulk sales and back taxes and liens and judgments and code violations and more. So yeah, I do travel around. I have my own events, about 7 or 8 events a year. And you can find out more information at larrygoins.com. We do that, and the Filthy Riches. We'll put a link right here on this page for I've got a 7-part video series that they could get. If you want to give that away to your listeners, we could put a link there for that. How about that?
Sounds good to me. So let's go over. I got 2 more quick things, and then I'll let you go. So I just kind of thought of these that a new investor is going to kind of worry about. So when we go back to buying these houses, right, we're not putting much work in them, but let's look at the inspection process. How are you ensuring, because we're buying them off photos online, how are you ensuring that there's actually a property even there? Are you having someone go look at them? Because I think this is what some people are going to be thinking. How would that kind of work? How do you get out there and kind of inspect the property?
Yeah, absolutely. Just because I don't look at it doesn't mean nobody looks at it, okay? We're going to have somebody go out and take pictures. They typically take about 40 or 50 pictures of the house. Every room, any repair areas, all mechanical items, all 4 sides of the house, any outbuildings, a street view both ways. I mean, we're getting a ton of pictures. So I know if there's a hole in the wall that the doorknob put in it behind the door, I see it. If there's a stain on the ceiling, I see it. If the heat pump is gone, I see it. Okay. So we get a ton of pictures, and you can get, like, for example, wegolook.com, They'll go anywhere and take as many pictures as you want of anything for about $45. Okay. Also, there's a field service rep out there called BPO Photo Flow. BPO, as in broker price opinion, photo, PHOTO, FLOW.com. And for $25, they'll go anywhere and take pictures of any house. And the best news, because they are a field service rep for asset managers, they already have keys to all the houses, especially the bank-owned houses.
And also, we'll have Larry back on here because he's a HUD home expert. He even wrote a book on it. They've already got all that information done for you, pretty much, for the most part. So let's talk about one last thing. Then we'll let you give all your information out here and kind of let you get back to your business, because you do run a business, right? So what happens if you take these properties back? I know this is a fear for everybody. They're like, well, once I sell them, it's passive. But if you have to take them back, which eventually happens, which probably happens less than people think, let's kind of go through that process here and kind of put people's minds at ease here, because I think a lot of people would be worried if they buy a house, what happens if they damage it, but they're less likely to damage it if they think they're buying it as compared to renting it. So what happens if they have to take the property back?
Right. Well, basically, if they default, right? If you don't pay, you can't stay. Okay. Now, if you're in it at 15 and you sold it for 30, you're going to get a huge return on your money. That's probably going to be in the mid 40% return on your money. Okay. 45, 48% return on your money. But think about this. If you have to take the property back, okay, you just turn around and sell it again to somebody else, and you get another $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 down. That lowers your cost in the deal and increasing your yield. Now your yield is probably in the 50s or 60s. And if you have to do it again, now your yield is in the 60s or 70s. Yep. You have to do it again, now your yield is in the 70s or 80s. Here's what can happen when you do one of these deals, okay? Here's the different things that can happen. If you buy a house and you resell it with owner financing, okay, the absolute best thing that can happen is they refinance and pay you off, okay? Now, I bought it for 15, I sold it for 30, they went and got a loan and refinanced and pay me off. It's very, very, very rare that happens. It's happened to me maybe once or twice, okay? The second best thing that can happen, okay, that was the first. The second best thing that can happen is that they default and you get to resell the house again.
Yep.
Okay. That's the second best thing that can happen is they stop paying and you get to sell it again. Okay. Because you get another down payment, which reduces your cost and increases your yield. The third best thing that can happen when you do one of these deals is they just make their payments as agreed. That's the third best thing that can happen is they just make their payments as agreed.
Yep.
And the worst and fourth best thing that can happen is they stop paying and you do a loan modification, okay? You do a loan modification to reduce their payments to get them within their budget for, I don't know, 3 to 6 months or something like that,
Yep.
okay?
Yep. And so what?
And that's the 4 things from best to worst that can happen when you do this.
So it sounds like a pretty good deal, huh? So the other thing is that, people that have been in this business for a while understand that when you're selling them these properties in slightly deferred maintenance type of condition, what happens? They go through and they'll put the new carpet in there. They'll paint the house. And so a lot of times you're taking a house back in better condition that's worth more so you can sell it for an even higher amount and you get a higher down payment. So,
it's funny you say that because a lot of people say, well, what about they're going to trash it when they leave? It was trashed when I sold it to them. I don't mean that in a bad way, but typically, really, it's going to be in better shape when you get it back than it was when you sold it to them.
I mean, but ultimately, like, you're giving these people an opportunity to have home ownership. Otherwise, they'd be renting. So they're excited and they're just grateful to be able to be a homeowner. So they're not thinking it like that. So it's kind of a teamwork between what you're doing with them. So let's go ahead and get all your contact information out. I don't know if you want to give your number, but let's get your websites. We'll put them under here as well. And guys, we're super excited to have you on here, Larry. You gave some really good information. I think people are going to be excited about hearing this.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, pretty much every one of our sites, we do a weekly radio show on WBT in downtown Charlotte, the home of the Panthers. It's called Brag Radio. It's all about being rich and generous. That's what Brag stands for. And so you can get links to that. You can get links to everything else, our books and all that other stuff, our training events at LarryGoins.com. That's the hub where everything is, all of our training courses, our live events, our radio show, our podcast, and all that stuff.
Awesome. Larry, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show today. Thanks for doing what you're doing for the entire investment community. You've helped a lot of people change their lives. And guys, we're wrapping this one up. We'll see you on the next episode of the Investor Army Podcast. Thanks, Larry, for coming on.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.